I'm ready. Yup. I hope you prayed this morning, because today we're talking about sex. The reason we have to talk about this is because the church is way too silent on something that God created. The culture has tried to make everybody think that it invented sex, that sex was something that is supposed to be nasty, it's supposed to be something we don't really talk about, but the church is not supposed to talk about it. I am standing in the authority that God has given me today, and I'm about to talk about sex in a manner that gives God glory and makes the devil look dumb. I want you to know that Trey Songz did not invent sex, even though he made a song that said he did. What I wanted to tell you today is God invented sex. I need to redeem this idea of sex real quick, because if you grew up in the youth group that I grew up in, this is all I got. Don't have sex, finish it before you get married. We went to the same youth group. And what ended up happening was that was an incomplete instruction. It was with good intention, but there was not enough information. This has never been addressed in church, but I promise you, more than half of the things people are coming to the altar for, and more than half of the things that we're counseling people out of, have some tie to some type of sexual perversion. I'm trying to go for the root of the thing today. Sex is good. Why is sex good, Pastor Mike? Many reasons, but the first one is because sex was God's idea. Sex is not something that is man-made. Sex was divinely created by the Creator. This was made by God for His children to enjoy within the right context. Let me prove it to you. Genesis chapter 1 verse 28. It says, then God blessed them. This is Adam and Eve in the garden. And it said, look at the first commandment to man ever. Be fruitful and multiply. This was not an agricultural term. He wasn't telling them go plant some seeds. Let me give you the remix version of this. He said, y'all blessed because I made you in my image. Adam, go put it down, bro. I want you to be fruitful and multiply. This is what God intended for it to be. And that's why in Mark chapter 10 verse 6, he says, but God made them male and female. He's given parameters. Verse 7, it says, this explains why a man leaves his father and mother and they get married, and watch this, and is joined. And when we say joined, it's like, oh yeah, they just came together. No. Joined has a threefold meaning in this context. They are joined physically through the act of sex. They're joined emotionally through closeness or intimacy, and they're joined spiritually through covenant. Every time somebody is joined or has sex, it is not just a physical experience. This is an emotional and spiritual connecting. And that's why you haven't been able to figure out why that one night stand when I was tripping on my birthday, you know what I'm saying? And you can't get that dude off your mind, and you can't get that girl out of your head. It's because you aren't just joined to them physically. The Lord said when y'all came together and did a sacred act, you joined together emotionally and spiritually. When you creeped out in the morning, something was stuck to you. See, the thing that you got to realize is that we think God recognizes marriage when we do the wedding and we have the food and we have the white dress and the tuxedo. That's not when God recognizes a marriage. The Bible tells us that God recognizes a marriage when that man and that woman comes together to consummate that marriage, or to connect or be joined into one. This is so deep that if you study the thing out, that God has so divinely orchestrated a woman's body to have a piece of that body be called the hymen, that is actually for storing blood, that when there's a covenant made, if you study it in the Old Testament and the New Testament, anytime a covenant is made, there has to be bloodshed. So God said when a man and a woman come together and are joined, I'm gonna put something in a woman that when they come together, there has to be bloodshed, because every time they connect, there has to be a covenant. And when there is a covenant and bloodshed, that is the thing that secures them forever together. And what you got to understand is this is the same principle that God uses in the Old Testament when the children of Israel are coming out of Egypt. All of the men had to get circumcised because there needed to be bloodshed to show that that was the old covenant, but this is the new covenant. Can I bring it up to the New Testament for you? When God was separated from humanity and we needed to be joined back to him, he sent Jesus and he went to a cross because there had to be bloodshed. And when there was bloodshed, I'm feeling happy already. When there was bloodshed, there was a new covenant made. God does not want us to just have a connection. He wants us to be in covenant. Every time I have sex with somebody, they're making a commitment to be in covenant. I do. No wedding, no dress, no songs, but in your apartment, in them queen size bed with the dirty sheets, I do. How many of us are married without the covenant? How many people have we said I do to, but you really didn't? You can act like you still whole, but half of you's with Jerome, the other half of you is Sheila, the other pieces of you are with everybody that never had an investment in your future, and you were not safe in the covenant and the confines of marriage, and now you're walking around with pieces of you. Sex creates soul ties. Sex creates soul ties. Let's break down that word, soul ties. The soul, most theologians believe, is the mind, the will, and the emotions. Okay? So it's the mind, it's my will, my actions, what I do, and my emotions, my feelings. Ties, I think the easiest way to define it today, the culture is calling it entanglements. So it's my mind, my will, and my emotions entangled with somebody else. But God made this thing so powerful that he said it only needs to happen within marriage. This is what I'm telling you right now, is that you have to get away from the soul ties. So what do I do, Pastor Mike? What do I do? How do I get uninvolved? How do I come back to a place that I can get back to spirit and truth? I need you to cut it and call it and confess it and cancel it and cast it. If I could sum all of that up, God wants all of us today to surrender our sexuality.